Usually all sweaty. I put the
Oh,
AC on to avoid the sweatiness. Hello, everyone. We're here. Posie's very sweaty, she says. I think she looks great. She's glowing.
it's very good light.
Yeah, yeah. Lighting helps. Um, everyone, thank you for joining us. I always forget to say these things, so I'm trying to remember now. If you're watching, please like and subscribe. If you would like to ask questions to Posie, please use the super chat. I will try to keep an eye on the live chat, but I really can't keep up with everything there. So if you're really trying to get our attention, please use the super chat. The live stream that I did exactly. The live stream that I did yesterday with Jennifer Lull was it was about reproductive technologies, and it was demonetized before we even started streaming.
No.
Yep. Which it was like we were talking about surrogacy and IVF and like a little bit about transhumanism at the end. So I have no idea what triggered them except for I don't even want to guess. I have no idea. And today I just got a notification that YouTube took down one of my videos about COVID and the vaccine mandates.
Oh, they're really crazy about that.
Yeah.
They're
So
really
I mean, a lot of my videos are demonetized, and I just have come to accept that they were going to demonetize half my videos. And then I mentioned this yesterday too, but I saw online that Matt Taibbi was like having a fit over one of his videos being demonetized, and I was like, oh, I just thought that was normal. Am I supposed to be having a fit about this? Like, I mean, I guess we should all be having a fit about it because it's some form of censorship, but I'm just so used to being censored.
yeah, I think probably 95% of my content is not monetized.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
And I'm shadow banned. I've stayed on like 59,698 for about 5 weeks. And before that I was climbing about 1,000 a week.
Yeah,
So
mine barely grows at all.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, but that's
can't.
just you.
It's just because I'm not very good. Oh, that's just because no one's interested.
Just because you've got a vagina.
Damn it. If only I had a Matt Walsh style penis.
I identify as having 6 million subscribers.
I mean, hopefully you'll get there. So tell me, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Do you know, I'm really good. It's I think the youth say ratioed these days, and yeah, it's quite good. I think that if we're talking, are we talking about friendly fire, or are we talking about generally? Are we talking about Eddie Izzard? Are we talking about American Tour? What are we talking about?
Pedophiles. I mean, I do want to talk about the Brighton event and the backlash. I mean, first of all, tell me how the event went. Tell us about
Oh
the
my
Brighton
God.
event.
It was so we had a documentary film crew. And let me just say, I never ask documentary film crews or anyone who wants to interview me, sort of media based. I don't ask where their allegiances are. And I'll tell you why. I think my argument is really convincing because it's true. So I don't care who wants to film me. I don't care how they want to snap and edit, and I don't care. So I didn't ask, and they were lovely. They came to my house. There were 3. They came to my house. They asked really intelligent questions. She was lovely, a woman called Max, really nice. And so they came to film. So they came to my house, and then they sort of filmed me packing up the car and stuff, and then they filmed in Brighton. So that was really quite exciting. And then as I arrive, there's absolutely loads of women that volunteered to be stewards, all run by a woman called Iris, who's she's phenomenal. And so all of this stuff had been organized, and then we sort of head over to the square, and as we head over to the garden, the park where we were going to do the talk, there's loads of TRAs, and wherever we go to stand, they just sort of follow a mass. It's quite funny. You could put it to good music, and it'd be hilarious. But what was great about Brighton is there were a lot of faces that I'd never seen before, and that sort of happened also in Manchester and Bristol. Women that really can't make it to London, and we just had these phenomenal speeches. We had a woman that had been put in prison for 7 weeks for basically being sexually assaulted, and I don't know this. I'm going to guess that the police decided she was a nuisance, and so she got put in prison for 7 weeks alongside a couple of blokes. And yeah, and so
Were they men who were identifying as women, or just men who identified as men?
well, they were men who claimed that they thought they were women.
Uh-huh.
And she was so frightened that she had a coil fitted before she went in, just in case she was raped and got pregnant. I mean, Jesus. It's just anyway. So she spoke. Another woman talked from the NHS who talked about the duty of care, and I clipped a bit where she's talking about a woman who had ended up non-verbal. She'd either had a stroke or something had happened to her, something catastrophic, and she was immobile and non-verbal. And so she sort of said she can no longer, in the NHS, that woman can no longer be guaranteed single-sex provision. So these were powerful speeches. Another woman talking about her autistic daughter will need care as an adult. Can she guarantee it to be female? And so on. And so the speeches were powerful. The opposition was noisy and very small in number in comparison to these so-called trans allies in Brighton. And a lot of people came out for it. And as far as I was concerned, it really was this sort of lightning moment. It was brilliant. And I don't think you could watch any single one of the speeches and not be moved. Like, just really unlikely. There was a lady with a mask the whole time, and then she just came out with a sort of all these links to paedophiles. So she was Irish and talked about the history of paedophilia and men encroaching upon women's boundaries and what happened to in the laundries. And it was phenomenal. I think I probably cried about 5 times that day, but it was just lovely. And then we had some backlash because, it can't be good. Women's testimony is not good enough.
Right. I mean, it's very frustrating that what actually happened at the event was not the focus, and that there was this heavy focus on 2 things. So I'm not familiar with this group. What, Heart of Oaks?
You and about 99.9% of the British population.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
not
who are
familiar
these
with them.
people?
Okay, so who I think they are and who other people have claimed they are 2 different things. Who I think they are is a relatively kind of UKIP, I think they probably have views on Islamification, Sharia courts, for example. Now, the left will say anybody that opposes certain elements of Sharia law, automatically you can decide that they are far right. Anybody that talks about grooming gangs and actually identifies the rapists, you can say that they're Islamophobic and therefore far right. And far right has ceased to mean anything these days.
Or is talking about immigration policy and whether there should be literal, like open borders.
Yeah. Yeah. No one thinks Japan should have open borders. We're quite happy for Japan to have a culture. And I also think the globalist agenda versus nationalist. Now, nationalist obviously is a really dirty word, and often nationalism can be associated with xenophobic and racist attitudes, when actually nationalism can just mean the country that you're born. Now, if I meet somebody clearly not white, of Asian descent or black, maybe Jamaican, whatever, I see those people as British. I see them as British as I am. And so I think a lot of people do. We accept certain other people that clearly aren't sort of 5-generation British as British. That is one of the things I'm really proud of as this country. And now apparently, if we recognise that there are differences between British people, we're racist. And I think it all feeds. If I was a globalist, if I was a powerful oligarch and globalist, I would want to say anybody with any idea of nation state as sovereign nation state, and sovereign is also a word kind of attributed to the far right, but a sovereign nation state, I'd want to pretend that they were raging racists and xenophobes rather than people that think, I want to democratically elect the people that make decisions on my behalf. And I can't do that if those decisions are made by Microsoft.
Right. I mean, and the other thing is that there are some very big problems that have come from mass immigration in Europe that the left doesn't want to talk about, as outlined very well by Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Douglas Murray.
I mean, look at Sweden. God's sake.
Yeah.
It's I don't know what do we think? That we're allowed to talk about the plight of women in Pakistan, but we're supposed to think that just happens by weird osmosis in the air and not by kind of a culture.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying all Pakistani men are anything at all. I'm just saying if you grow up in a culture in which women are treated like absolute dirt, in a different way than the dirt that apparently Western women are treated. But there are little baby girls on rubbish dumps in Pakistan. Do we honestly think that those people can fly over and they just get rid of all of that women hatred and they land in whatever country and they're exactly the same as wherever they land? I mean,
yeah, well, it's very clear that there are men who have come from extremely misogynistic, extremely actually patriarchal cultures and religions that bring those views over to Western countries. And I don't know why feminists wouldn't be critical of that, because it comes down to, again, misogyny, patriarchy, male violence.
Because they're leftists before they're feminists, and that means protecting lefty men. That's the only thing I can come up with. And I'm not beholden to the left or feminism for that matter, neither of those things, because I believe that there are fundamental, universal rights and wrongs. And I think as soon as you subscribe to an ideology, you are bound by some of those fundamentals in that ideology. And I think some of them are absolutely wrong. I don't think you can genuinely center the liberation of women if you won't call out the rise in rape in countries like Sweden.
Right. And I mean, the insistence on pretending that places like Canada and America and the UK are just as misogynistic as these other places that are, forcing women to veil, not letting girls go to school.
The same people that said I was racist because I said I didn't think 7-year-olds should wear hijabs are all celebrating and sharing stories from Iran. You're like, where is your consistency? I was recently on a very famous woman's page, Gail Dines, actually, who I think is an incredible campaigner against porn.
She's done so much in the fight against porn, so much.
But some of the women follow her. It's just the incoherence of some stuff. So there was a comment made that Johnny Depp's new girlfriend, who is the lawyer, is a traitor to her sex class.
Wait, Johnny Depp's dating his lawyer?
I believe so.
Oh.
I don't know this. I don't follow celebrity kind of lives. I've got my own.
I mean, I try to, but
I don't have time.
Okay, anyway. So
I can barely follow my own kids' lives, let alone mine. But yeah, so anyway, there was a comment made that she was a traitor to her class. Now, on that same page, I was totally ripped apart and somebody cut these threads where I apparently had victim blamed by saying that not all women can be victims of domestic abuse, because some women recognize the first signs of it because they have different sort of boundaries, whatever.
Some women are equipped. I don't know if I would say naturally, but maybe this is about how they are raised with red flags that other women seem to lack. And is this kind of what you're arguing?
Yeah, so this is what I've said before, and I've said that I think fundamentally what we need to teach women is to recognize, is to trust their instincts.
Yeah.
And all humans, actually. That's how criminals get away with stuff. What they rely on is politeness and you to rationalize your fears, right? And I say, don't rationalize your fears, trust your fears, because they know more than you do. And so I was just talking about that. And I said, I think some women have boundaries and blah, blah, blah. And I was told I was victim blaming. And it's kind of used against me saying that women deserve to be beaten if they're domestic violence victims, which is not remotely what I've said.
Right.
So then they're on there calling this woman a traitor on the basis that because she's got a high-powered job and she's educated, that she is less likely to be a victim. And I'm like, I don't think that is the fundamental difference between women who are victims and women who aren't, is being educated or anything, or having a high-powered job. I don't think that is the difference. I think there's something far more fundamental and foundational about the difference between women who recognize abuse and women who don't. And I don't think wealth has got anything to do with it whatsoever. And now that, now I'm being told that I'm terrible, that I don't recognize some women are traitors. And I'm like, make up your mind, because it's not coherent. Anyway.
I think that, first of all, women of all classes are subject to domestic abuse, molestation, sexual abuse, rape, so on and so forth. Obviously, women with means are better able to escape. For example, working class and poor women are obviously more likely to end up in a transition house because they can't afford a hotel, or they can't afford to just go get another apartment, which is, of course, so much of what we talk about around the trans issue, because it's working class and poor women who are really the ones who have to bear the brunt of this infiltration of men on women's spaces, because these women end up in transition houses, in shelters, in prison. These are the most marginalized women who are being forced to contend with these mentally ill men. But yeah, I think, I don't know, like there are some women, and I can't figure out why, who just don't seem equipped with red flags that others are. Like, I think that my red flags are pretty strong now, but not always. And I'm always like very confused when women sort of blindly trust these guys who set off my spidey senses and who I sort of immediately suss out as narcissists or abusive or creeps. And they're like, he seems really nice. I'm like, yeah, he seems really nice. I agree. He's acting really nice.
But I think what therapists talk about, and wiser people than me, is that we go home. So if you were ignored as a child, then you might choose a partner who's more likely to ignore you. If you were belittled, then you might choose that. Now, I don't think that is a well thing, but like you say, any kind of blight is made lesser if you have means to escape it. But I just think, for me, this whole like feminism, or the label feminism and the action of feminism, I find it a really difficult thing to square with theory, because our lives are not theoretical. They're often quite messy and they're complicated. And feminism there's some fundamental great things about it, right? Like somebody said, oh, don't you believe in the sisterhood? I was like, me? No, I don't.
No, I don't at all. And you know why? Because the sisterhood has been so fucking shitty to me. The sisterhood.
Bitch at me for 3 weeks. Yeah, I believe in it.
I mean, that's not like, so many women have supported me over the years, and it's been amazing. And my focus is still on women's rights. And my focus is still, like, I work with women still primarily. I still interview primarily women. I also work with men and interview men. But the way that I've been treated by women in feminism is horrid.
How dare you write something and then disagree with one person or wear a bit of eyeliner? How dare you?
Well, and how dare I not sit down and shut up and like do as I'm told?
And the COVID thing, I think, was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I did find, I won't mention her name, but a kind of non-partisan campaigner found herself in her first disagreements over not wanting to force people to have vaccines. And I think the compliance is very interesting with the left and compliance and authoritarianism and all of that stuff. I find it quite scary. But, I think we talked about this before. In the UK, on a Thursday night, 8:00, everyone out and clapped for nurses. Everybody went out and clapped for nurses. And now some of my friends, not particularly close friends, but they were saying, oh, yeah, well, if you don't get vaccinated, you should lose your job, these nurses. I was like, hang on a minute. You clap for them when they were most likely to get the deadliest form of the virus. You clapped for their bravery when you knew that they didn't have the right equipment. You knew people were dying in care homes, and you clapped for those people. And then when the whole bloody thing is just completely less for everybody, there aren't so many people dying, you're saying they should lose their job. Are you mad? Are you just mad?
Well, and where does my body, my choice go? It's this is why these are mantras. People blindly repeat mantras without thinking about them and without even meaning them. Because if we're talking about abortion, they'll say my body, my choice. And then as soon as they're talking about something that I guess is politically inconvenient or politically incorrect, politically inconvenient for them to stand up for, they can't say my body, my choice. It should be your choice to decide what you put in your body.
Well, I think over the last few, I remember doing, you might have been interviewed by them as well. Very funny. Karen and the Aussie. There's an Aussie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Karen. Yeah. I'm having Karen on my channel again next week. I love her. They're both hilarious.
Just so funny. And they did a segment for me called TRA or Feminist. And they read out things that have been said about me. And this was years ago. Was it a TRA or a feminist? And it was really difficult to tell. There was stuff about my looks.
What did they say?
Well, one of them was like, it was things like she looks like she's been dragged. She looks like Kim Wilde's been dragged through a hedge backwards. Like Kim Wilde's like an 80s pop star.
I don't know.
Really horrible, just things about my looks, just quite scathing things. And it was, I did know some of them, but it really was difficult to tell. And
one of them said that I was like losing my looks faster than something. I can't remember the end of the sentence. And I was like, first of all, I look great for 42. Second of all, what the fuck kind of feminist says that? There's nothing I can do about it. It's so weird. It's like, yeah, I'm aging.
I won't disclose who this person was talking about, and I will not disclose who it is. Certainly not on air. But when I was doing something somewhere, I'd mentioned inviting one feminist, and I was talking to this feminist, and they said because of the way that person had talked to somebody else in an interview, they wouldn't share the platform. And I just don't even know what to do with that. I just find it incredible. Literally slicing off the breasts of 13-year-old girls, and you're going to talk about some comments that somebody made on somebody's podcast and how you now can't really stand with them.
Well, and it seems obvious, but I don't know how feminists think they're going to make progress on this issue if they don't reach a wide audience, which you can't do if you demand that audience agree with your leftist politics and your woke ideology, because most people don't give a shit about that, or they think it's stupid.
Yeah. They don't want to win. They want to impress their friends. They don't want to win.
It's elite politics. It's elitist politics. And I don't know how many people I'm angering by saying that, but, and I mean, and I feel particularly justified in saying these things because I used to be like that.
Yeah,
and I changed my mind, and I was like, I don't think this is a good approach, and I don't like this, and I've learned new things, so I've changed my mind about things, but also I like regular people. I like talking
Was
to.
it this issue that changed you?
It was the Trump stuff and the COVID stuff, I think. The way
But you were on your journey way before the Trump stuff, no?
I mean, okay, so the gender identity stuff, the censorship stuff, I mean, dealing with feminist infighting and the attacks on me from feminists over the years certainly changed my mind about that. Having been attacked by the left for a decade and finally being like, okay, bye. Like, but you know, I tried to sort of hang on, and I thought I could just convince the left to our perspective. This was when I was, more focused on the issue of pornography and prostitution, and then realized that no, they weren't going to change their mind. They just wanted to shit on me and legalize prostitution. Then the gender identity thing came along, and how the left treated myself and other women in this fight was abhorrent and disgusting and obviously misogynistic. Obviously, they weren't concerned with poor working class women. Obviously, they weren't actually concerned with marginalized people when they were, positioning these scary men as marginalized and silencing women. So there's all of that. Then there was the way that people were treated who voted for Trump, who didn't want to vote for the Democrats, and how they were libeled and vilified and misrepresented over and over and over again. And then
our Brexit people.
Yeah.
So racist, stupid, uneducated, have no idea, vote for Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. They were all rich and white, which wasn't true.
Ours was stupid and poor. Stupid, poor, feckless, dumb people.
Well, yeah, they shouldn't even have the right to vote. Too stupid to vote, right?
Unlike Biden, who is a positive genius.
On the ball. And then there was all the COVID stuff and the embrace of authoritarianism and totalitarianism. And again, the lack of recognition about how all these lockdowns and mandates were affecting actually marginalized people, and what realizing that these people who talked about marginalized people at all had no idea what marginalized people actually thought, nor did they care unless they were agreeing with their politics and their ideologies.
I find it really interesting how the feminists who attacked me still haven't learned it's just not a good look. It's just not a good look. Nobody is going to say, oh, so you're going to go, you're not going to talk about how can anyone have listened to Amanda, who I've used in my little trailer about coming to the US? And she talks about being so frightened. How can anyone not want to talk about her? Because if you want to win the argument, if I talk about her very coldly as like a PR thing, as opposed to a genuine, like just amazing woman, just from a PR kind of our argument point of view, she's our argument, right? It's that it's being trapped, it's being punished, it's being put in solitary if you don't address a man with female pronouns in a women-only prison. That is a winning argument. That is a perfect case. Why would you not want to raise that voice? Unless you're in some nasty little wind-up WhatsApp group in which you're so angry, and the source of the anger, I know not what it is, but you're so angry with me that you'd rather throw all of those women under the bus who spoke with shaking hands sometimes and shaken voices, rather than raise and uplift those women. Like I must live rent-free in those women's heads.
Yeah, I'd never really been able to figure out the anger because it's quite extreme. I mean, and I've been harassed by some of those women, like harassed to the point where I had to block them from my Facebook page, which is not something I do very often, because they just wouldn't leave me alone. And the trolling was so constant that I started to think that some of them had some kind of mental health issue. So it was like, you're obsessed. You're obsessed. And I didn't really understand. And then I started to realize that I was like, I think a lot of this just has to do with the fact that I still work with and like and support you, and that I won't reject you.
Sorry.
And I was like, that's a lot. It's not just anger at you, it's anger at anybody who
well, look at
supports
Maya
you.
Forstater and Helen Joyce over the last few weeks, just for coming and talking.
So, I mean, yeah, I know. I saw Maya Forstater being attacked again over supporting you. Also, is guilt by association, right? But so let's talk more about. So this Heart of Oaks group came and filmed.
A woman and a man, I think it transpires to have been, and they came and filmed. I don't care who comes and listens to what we have to say, right? I genuinely don't care.
How would you stop anyone? I mean, I never would. Anybody who wants to come, anybody who wants to film is welcome, unless they're being violent or disruptive, unless they're dangerous. Then, I mean, I'm gonna like check people at the door for their politics.
Well, the documentary film crew, it now transpires, may or may not be very, very woke. Probably don't agree with me at all. And in fact, I've had a bit of an exchange with the director this week and just said, look, I trust that you're going to make a film that you can put your name to. I trust that what you think you deliver is honest. And whether you agree with me or whether you think I'm the devil incarnate, it doesn't actually bother me, because I trust your integrity as a film producer. Now, it might be that her thinking, as far as I'm concerned, is totally, totally wrong. I don't care. So then they were saying, oh, so you've got Hearts of Oak far right, and apparently I had far left. So I think that makes me equal. Like, I can definitely stand by saying that anyone can film if at the same time I have the very, very left and the very, very right. Neither of those things I think are true. I think that maybe the film crew are a little bit woke. They use words like queer in their sort of bios, and maybe Hearts of Oak have some views, or they've certainly interviewed some people that people have decided are persona non grata. And if you even listen to those people speak, you must be far right. But anyway, they filmed and put it out. I don't care. They could have been Pink News. When Pink News write to me and ask me for a comment, I always thank them for asking me to comment. And they don't usually edit in a unprofessional way. They might not put my full kind of 4 sentences. They might only put 2, but they don't crop it about. They don't misrepresent me. And I'm happy to give comment to Pink News. So I'm certainly happy for someone to come and film. And then people are like, oh, you didn't get consent. And if people had known, I'm like, what do you think is going to happen if someone just videos you and puts it online, like I'm going to anyway? Like, what's going to happen to you? You're going to catch Nazism.
Well, and I don't know, who would have not come knowing that, like, there was a whole bunch of people who were filming, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I just can't imagine that somebody would not come because they were like, oh, well, this group is filming. And if they film me, then everybody watching is going to assume that I'm a Nazi.
And the reason they think like that is because that's what they would do if somebody else was filmed and it was put out. I think they reveal so much about themselves. If I saw something and you were being videoed, or you were on some channel and somebody was videoing you in a park making a speech, I wouldn't think, God, she must fully endorse everything those people have ever said. I wouldn't think anything of it, because I don't believe in guilt by association. That's what these people believe.
Yeah, it's a really strange thing to focus on. And it's really strange to think that you could control that in the first place, who films you. There was the other controversy, so it was the Heart of Oaks thing that they focused on, and then there was a woman who I'm not familiar with who was said to be like a right-wing commentator who spoke at the event. Who was that?
So her name's Sophie Corcoran, and she's 19 or 20, working class, went to uni, seems quite bright, has made some comments. As I understand it, I think one of them is sort of saying, how is it that I'm broke when I walk past a girl my age, she's got a baby in a pushchair, claiming benefits, and the baby's got designer clothes. Now, I can see that is not a particularly astute thing to talk about, because actually what's really happening is that those women have got no aspiration beyond designer labels for their kids, or so it seems. And that would be because we're not delivering the right sort of aspiration to young women in this country. There might be a certain sort of underclass that's all about designer clothes and not mortgages or whatever it is, right? There's a bigger conversation to be had. She's 19. She ain't going to get everything right. And I think she has a right to say it. And actually, what she said on my platform, on my microphone, on my channel, she talked about men not being women. Like, why am I going to object? I just think if you want to go down that road, which a lot of these women are, I think we have to accept that that's why the left is no closer to understanding the plight of women than 5, 7, 10 years ago when these women started raising the alarm. That's why they're particularly ineffective. That's why Women's Place UK, if I'm going to just name them, Women's Place UK have been trying to work on the Labour Party and Labour Women's Declaration and all these people, and I'm sure they mean well. There's no success whatsoever. And if you are bound by these limiting ideas that only some people are allowed to speak, you only stand for some women, then you're just not going to win. You're not going to convince anyone.
I think you're just not going to get anywhere. And I think that's how we've seen this play out is, struggling with these left-wing people who hate us, who don't want to change their minds, who don't care what we have to say, who clearly don't care about our concerns, who don't want us in their parties, who don't need us for any reason at all. Struggling with them to get them to like us, to listen to us for years and years and years, and refusing to speak to people who don't identify themselves as left-wing, who aren't attached to left-wing parties, I think is completely purposeless. I mean, I think it's fine to choose not to work with certain people based on, whether or not we think that they're trustworthy or legit or have integrity. I think we can, I mean, there's people that I don't want to work with because they creep me out or I don't trust them or I think that they're phony. But it's not to do with their politics.
Well, don't you think as well, this is what happened basically. They were going, we're going to be associated with the far right. And then you're like, why would that? Well, because she worked with the far right. And you're like, yeah, you're the only people saying it. You're going, oh my God, they won't work with us because of something that we told everyone. And now nobody will work with us and we're not associated. But we keep talking about this woman and our association, but we're not associated. And
she's gone far right. And now people think she's gone far right because we told them that she's gone far right.
Why does everyone think she's a Nazi? Well, because we told them. We didn't want them to then use it against us and say we were associated with her.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's so stupid. So they're just like running into a wall fast.
Well, it's very frustrating. But so it goes, and we move forward, and you are moving forward. And I was very, very excited to see that you have plans to make a documentary about women and women's fight against gender identity ideology, because we started this.
Yeah, and the story I want known is I want the penalties that women have paid for this men's rights activism, the penalties that families have paid when their children are sucked into this cult, and the kids, and the aftermath when the mutilated realize that they are mutilated and there is no going back. I'm not saying there's not life after these horrible surgeries, but Christ, I can't imagine the bravery of admitting that you've done something so catastrophically wrong. And even if you're only like 7, 8, 9, when you're swept into this, I still think you will bear the weight of responsibility, even if it's not really yours to bear. So I want those stories to be told, and I want the fight back. I want the kind of the small heroic acts that women do all the time, whether it's kind of just crossing out the word gender on their kids' school, or refusing to do pronouns at work, or actually leaving their jobs, whatever it is. I want our stories to be told, because often we're just left out of our struggles always. And so this is our bloody story, and I think I think it needs to be told.
Well, and I think that it's been, brave individuals who have spoken out, who have made a huge amount of difference, because it emboldens others to speak out.
Yeah.
I talked to a woman just last night from a group called Our Duty. Her name was Erin Friday, and they've organized a rally in Anaheim. Their focus is fighting the transing of kids. And she is a parent of a girl. She's talked about this openly. We did an interview. She talked about all this, so I'm not divulging anything that she hasn't. She's the parent of a girl who, over COVID, started spending all her time online and decided that she was trans, like with the encouragement and, indoctrination from an older girl. And of course, these legions of people online who want to tell kids, maybe you're trans, and if your parent doesn't go along with it, it's because they don't love you and you should run away from home. These like really evil people. And she fought it. She wouldn't go along with her kid. Like I asked her, I was like, what do you say? What should parents do? There's so many parents who are facing this, and it must be so horrible and terrifying, because you don't want to lose your child. And you have so little support. And so she just, she was like, no, you're not a boy. This is ridiculous. This is BS. No, I'm not calling you by a boy name. I'm not using male pronouns. And her kid came out of it, luckily. But imagine how scary it would be to be a parent, to speak out about this against, your school, the school.
And against your kid, against your own kid.
Yeah.
I think that's the, but yeah, everywhere you go. I mean, I sort of think that you have to think of this stuff, if it grips hold of your child, the same as, would you let them have crack? Would you let them have smack? Smoke weed at like 12? Would you let
But it's even worse than that.
Oh yes, much worse.
I mean, no, most parents would say no. Of course, we're not going to let our child start drinking and smoking and using hard drugs at 13, 14 years old. But, this is about potentially ruining their entire life.
And also, if you said, oh, we're stopping our child from taking crack, everyone would go, oh, of course. And the doctors would go, yeah, of course you should. And everyone would say, yeah, of course. But this is basically like everyone else saying, no, give her the heroin. Why would you not allow this wonderful little girl to take as much heroin as she wants? I mean,
she says that she'll run away if we don't give her heroin.
I mean, look, I've thought about this before this gender stuff, because my kids know that they're just, we're not in the States for a start, and they all know it's absolute shit. But you know, I've thought when they were little about drugs, and I mean, I think I'd lock them in their room and board it up and pass them food, pass them, like, let them out for 5 minutes a day. And the first thing I think I would do if my kid was involved in gender stuff is I would not have the internet in my house. That's the first thing I would do.
Yeah. That's what this woman said. That's what Erin said, is that you take away their phone, which is, she's, in her words, like World War III. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, obviously.
No.
You take away their phones and you keep them off the internet. I mean, the internet and social media and all these online forums have played such a huge role in transing kids. And it's also where adult predators can and are reaching these kids.
Yeah. It's so scary.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
And, you know, so, I just wanted to say, this rally that this group is doing, Our Duty, is happening on October 8th, again, in Anaheim. And I posted a link to their website in case you want to contact them about this. They're going to be at the American Academy of Pediatrics convention, but they have very specific requests. I asked her, I was like, can people join? But they don't want anybody there who's going to be, you know, yelling and screaming, and, you know, they're trying to send their message in a specific way. So contact them if you sort of want to get involved, is what I would say. But okay, so this documentary that you're planning on doing, you want to tell the stories of women, individual women who are doing work, how women have been treated, how women have been punished. I mean, I haven't been quiet about this at all. Like, it is maddening to see these few right-wing men. Not all right-wing men. A lot of right-wing men have been great on this. You know, like, there's right-wing men, there's Christian men, there's all sorts of men who have supported our fight for many, many, many years now. And, you know, but it's the guys who are like, where are all the feminists on this? Where are all the women on this? And when you point out to them that we've been fighting this since, you know, 2015, and in some cases even longer than that, they're like, well, I guess you didn't try hard enough.
Yeah, it's a bit like, here we are. And you're like, oh, where have you been? And they're like, hey, there was no one here. I can't hear you. No, where have you been? Oh, there's no one here.
It's just me. I'll fix this for you.
So look, I'm really happy that if anyone stopped any single child from getting mutilating surgeries or taking these bloody evil drugs, I'm happy. I just think this is our fight. It's our erasure. You know, it's everybody's battle, right? But it's an existential threat to women, and I think we have an understanding very much deeper than any man who is actually involved in this, because this is a shared experience of women through puberty and through sort of male gaze or not male gaze. You know, maybe you're not pretty and you don't get male gaze, and therefore you have no bloody value. But whatever it is, we understand this in a way that I don't think any man does. And so I want to do starting on the 16th of October in LA, and then we're going to go up to, I can't remember whether it's San Francisco or Sacramento first. I think it's San Francisco, then Sacramento, then Portland, because that'll be fun.
Oh Lord.
And then Seattle, and then down to Texas, and then I might have a couple of days, and then I might go to Denver, Chicago, and then back down to Jacksonville, Miami, Boston, Loudoun, Washington, New York. Kind of, I'm just planning my itinerary at the moment, but I'm going for a month, and we are going to film as much as possible, and certainly a lot of the sort of women speaking in the public square type rallies.
And so are you going to have a specific itinerary that we can know about?
Yeah, when I do it. I'm just looking
That I
at driving time.
Really
I will let
talking about me now.
Of course, I will let. I think it would be great. I know how you feel about these events and how you feel particularly unsafe. But this
Yeah.
is. I just think this is. I keep saying this. The house is on fire and our children are inside, and I I don't have. If we get enough, so Standing for Women and Adult Human Female Store have put in a substantial amount of money, and then we were just going to raise the next 25. But if we can get more than that, Meghan, then we might be able to get you some security to come and talk.
Everyone donate so that I can have some bodyguards, so that nobody beats me up in San Francisco or Portland, or I don't think anybody will beat me up in Texas, but who knows? So far,
I'll
haven't been
tell
beat
you
up
what I
in
want. I want to go and see Heather. I want to go and see Mr. Rogan. I want Mr. Shapiro. It's not essential because this is about women. But I think if we could get as many people as possible to sort of think, do you know what? If not now, then when? And if not who? If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? I think, how bad does it have to get before people speak?
I mean, it's so bad already. Like, I can't even deal with like thinking about what all these people, what all these kids, what all these youth are going to have to suffer for their entire lives because of these predatory adults who want to make money off of this, or who are just going along because they want to look woke to their friends online. I mean, I think it's just disgusting, and I'm upset that it's gone this far already. And I agree, we have to stop this now before it continues, before it gets worse.
I mean, I think the Hollywood, the whole. So I went to a meeting at my kids' school tonight, and I've been to a couple of meetings where they do this. They don't call them children; they call them young persons or young people. Now, everybody in that room, maybe not everybody, but most people in that room, that was their children. And my children will be my children until I die. There will always be my children. People can say, your children, and I don't think they're 5-year-olds. They're my kids, right? And she just, and it didn't even, she would say, your young person. And I just thought, no, you can say your children. If you were saying the young people or the young person, that kind of makes sense. But to say your young person, I'm just thinking, don't do that. Why are you taking the word children away, or your sons and daughters? Like, what are you doing? In order to be inclusive, we sort of have to pretend that most of the people, probably 98% of the people in that room, it was their children. Like, all of these weird young person, when like mermaids use young person, so Susie Green and her clan of groomers, they call kids young persons. Now, young person then can mean 9 to 25 is a young person. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we just obliterating like familial kind of language and connections?
Well, I know. So much of this, appears to be about isolating kids from their parents and keeping secrets, telling kids to keep secrets from their parents. That this should be very obviously dangerous and grooming behavior. I mean, we know that child predators use those tactics to abuse children, and now schools are doing it. And it's really scary and really disturbing and strange. I watches the Watchman in the live chat says, companies are starting to use preferred pronouns. Should pressuring women to call a man by she, her pronouns in the workplace be considered sexual harassment?
Oh, I don't know if it's harassment, is it? But it's definitely discrimination, I would think. I don't know if it's harassment, because I thought sexual harassment has to have like a sexual element. Maybe it does, because maybe you're then engaging in that man's fetish. Be a nice thing to test in a court.
Yeah, I mean, I always think that like the easiest way, but I don't know because I'm not a legal person, the easiest way to challenge these things is to say like, this isn't my religion and you can't force me to adhere to your religious beliefs in the workplace, in school.
That annoys me though, right? Because I'm an atheist, so I can't. I just want it to. Well, unless we somehow categorize transgenderism as a religion, which I think it is, a quasi-religious cult. But you missed a super chat, by the way, that's a bit above that. Megan's bodyguard fund.
Oh yes, thank you, Paolo, who contributed to my bodyguard fund. I don't do any events without security, and it's not just me being high maintenance. It's because I'm scared of getting shot or something like that.
Well, I am going to be investing in a bulletproof vest.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. These people are unhinged and dangerous.
Mm. By the way, if anyone wants to contribute to the documentary...
Right, I was going to say that next. Right. Oh, yeah, right.
So you can go to standingforwomen.com/documentary, and there's many ways to donate there. And the big yellow button is for the Give Butter, which is givebutter.com/Posie Parker doc USA. It's going to be bigger than the US, but we're starting in the US. I think let's take the free speech to the home of free speech.
Yeah, I agree. I'll get those links from you and post them in the show notes below this video once we're done so that people can contribute. I think it's such a great idea. I'm so excited that you're doing this. I mean, I think like there was a lot of people after Matt Walsh's documentary who came out and said, well, like make your own documentary then if you're going to complain about it. But I mean, the money thing is really hard. Like I do think that one of the biggest challenges for women and for feminists who have been fighting to stop gender identity legislation, gender identity ideology, stop the transing of kids is that it's hard to get attention on the issue. And, you know, it's hard even just to put together events when you don't have money. It's hard to, you know, put up billboards without money.
Well, you know what the right do? You know what the right do? They give money. Yeah. Right-wing men give money to right-wing men. Left-wing women don't like giving money. Thank you very much.
Well, what are you trying to profit from feminism, Posie?
Apparently. Woman's got to eat.
I mean, that's one of the accusations that comes from these left-wing
I live in a mansion with gardens.
It's like, oh, don't give her money. She's making money. And it's like, do you really think that any woman is like getting rich off of this issue? And also, you surely know that we need funding, that like we can't do this work for free.
J.K. Rowling's got no money.
That's not what I heard.
I mean, look, people make money. People have to live. Some people are really lucky and they land in really good jobs and they make a fortune. And some people are lucky and they're born into families in which education is really important. They have loads of opportunities. Some people are entrepreneurial. Apparently, though, if you want to be a virtuous feminist, you both think it's fine for someone like Julie Bindel to be married to a woman who's incredible at her job. So I understand. And Julie, I don't think is short of cash either. They both have money. That's all right. It's all right for some women to print T-shirts, not even for the cause, just with the cause as the topic of T-shirts, and they're allowed to make money. But I'm not.
Well, anyone's allowed to make money, but I mean, I'm not supposed to either. And this is like my more than full-time job, but for some reason these people seem to
What
believe
is
that
it?
I don't know. I think like it's like, do you not want me to do this work? Because that's what that means. Like if I can't get paid for this work that I'm doing, I'm gonna go have to get some other job, and I won't have time to do this work anymore.
I just feel like saying to when some of these women were attacking me, I feel like going, all right, then I'll just give up.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
who's
Do you want me to
gonna
just
fill
stop?
my
It
shoes?
seems like they do want us to stop. I think it sounds like they want you to stop. It seems like they want me to stop. And that's a really, really weird thing to do. And it's like, oh, okay, these women have a platform. Maybe they're making some kind of progress. They're still fighting after all these years. What we want to do is we want to make them stop because they're not doing what we tell them to do. They're not doing things in the way we want them to do. And probably, honestly, because you have a big platform. You know, you get attention and
I've
they
worked
don't
quite
like that.
hard
Yeah.
in the last few years. I've done quite a lot. I mean, I give up 2 weekends a month and I work 5 days a week, every single, and sometimes more.
Yeah, me too.
And you know, sometimes I do stuff in the evening, and TERF Talk Tuesday, which is glorious, and anyone can ring and have a voice. And I really hope that is what I bring to this is giving loads of women a place in which they can speak. And I just think I've actually, you know, sometimes I sit back and I think I've done all right. When I watched Jennifer Lyle's documentary and Kat sort of says that she watched the trigonometry interview and that it was like a moment for her, or a mother says, oh, my daughter, in fact, she mentioned you as well, watched Magdalene and you and me on YouTube. And at first she was like, I can't believe you're watching that awful woman. And then she sort of lingers. And then she finally admits she's not a boy. I mean, you know, I think I've done all right. Even if those were the only two things that I contributed to, I'm quite happy. Thanks.
I mean, women like Magdalene changed my approach to this issue, because I think the first time I ever saw one of her videos, and I was, you know, working on this issue, but I was not as outspoken as I am now and as I have been for the past, you know, more than a few years. But I saw one of Magdalene's videos and I was like, do you know what I mean?
shared one of her clips the other
And
day.
then I was like, oh no, wait, yeah, this is what we should all be saying. She's right. But the first time I was like, oh my goodness, she's just like being on. She's like, you can see his dick. You know what I
Did you
mean?
meet Magdalene? Because she was
Yeah,
tiny,
finally.
tiny.
But
But
yeah.
she, I
Yeah, when
watched
I
her.
was in Scotland, I met her and she was very sick then, so it was quite sad. But I am glad that I did get to meet her before she passed.
Well, my favorite of her videos, aside from when she does a South African accent, and I can't remember what video that is, but she does one about learning how to be feminine. And I shared a clip on my Instagram the other day, and it's
I saw that.
she's just like smiling all the way through. She really was quite an exceptional human, which just makes it all the worse that she's gone. But
Yeah.
you know, she certainly changed a significant number of women in this fight as well as outside of it while she was making those videos. I mean, she would phone me when this sort of stuff happened with all these women. She would sort of call me and be like, are you all right? And, you know, she certainly wouldn't have been happy with this factionalism and this crap going on.
No, and she was really outspoken about free speech and you know, said outright, you know, there's no such thing as hate speech. That's a stupid concept, which had an impact on me. And it's like, oh, she's right.
Don't you think it's weird? Right. So I'm sure we talked about this before, Meghan, but when I discovered this particular issue, and it threw me into a kind of, oh, the left's a bit crap. I then really went back to, and I did this quite swiftly, many of my preconceived ideas and the things I knew. And I thought, why do I know that thing? Do I really know it, or have I been told it? Like, what's the evidence for that? And it made me question everything. Really everything. Some things that, you know, I still had the same opinion on after I questioned it. But this this idea that some women can be in this fight and have not done the same, I find really quite just extraordinary. Why would you think this is the only thing you were wrong about?
Right. Yeah, it's strange that some people have come to question gender identity ideology and, the fact that the left is pushing gender identity ideology and not question, oh, maybe the left has some other culty ideas and maybe I should be questioning everything that these people are saying because they're clearly not acting with integrity and, they're motivated by money or advancing politically or advancing in their careers. I mean, a lot of these people say these things because they're trying to move up in their careers. Like it's about money for them in a variety of ways. K-Hots, thank you so much for the super chat. Politically homeless women give money too. Men aren't women though is my slogan for life. Unapologetic about standing for women. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it made me question everything too, and it made me realize that all these beliefs that I've held for, really my whole life. Yeah, why do I know them to be true? Do I know them to be true because there's evidence, because I've really interrogated those beliefs, or is it because this is what I was told and then I just repeated it and assumed it was true? And I think a lot of it was just that I'd been told and repeated it and assumed that it was true and assumed that I was good and right and that the right or, whoever didn't agree with me was bad or wrong. And I don't know. I think people put blinders on by choice. Like I think they do it for their own benefit.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Trump and the fact that there are some things that he actually did quite well for the country, like made a difference to certain demographics of people. And if you or if you quote some of these sort of shooting statistics about who the shooters are, who shoots and kills people, who's shot and killed, who's the most likely to be killed, why are there certain rates of incarceration for different demographics in America? If you talk about any of that, you're racist. If you talk about the fact that Trump did some good things, that means that you forgive him for being an asshole.
Or that Trump didn't do very many bad things during his presidency as compared to other presidents.
It's just so mad. I mean, he didn't drop a bomb on anyone. I think that's not a bad thing for an American president. I do think if he represented nothing else, if he just gave a break from the political elite, and we know if we didn't know that was happening before, we know it's happening now because a man who can barely string a sentence together is now the president of the United States.
There's no idea what's going on. No idea what's going on. He should be
evil?
in bed.
Don't you think they're evil? The people around him sort of like,
who's letting him do this? Who's winding him up and pushing him out on stage to be like, where am I? Who are these people?
It's so gross. I just think it's plain evil.
I mean, I do think that one of the things Trump did, I mean, I don't like the guy. I think he's like an asshole and I think he is sexist and I don't think he's particularly smart. But, he called out and said things that you're not supposed to say in politics. He called out these people for what they were doing and he challenged them all. And, he wasn't supposed to win. That wasn't the plan. And he did anyway. Like,
you knew what he thought as well, because he tweeted it in the middle of the night. So there was no, like, it.
At least we knew who he was, actually.
Yeah. Just, I sort of think my husband, no, I can't say that. Because I was going to identify someone then. But there are horrible people. And some are horrible people who are just in your face awful. And some horrible people are your best friend and they're evil. And I happen to think that Trump was in your face awful. You kind of knew what you were getting because he was arrogant enough to think that everyone would think he was great. And you've got Biden and the Democrats and the people around Biden who are your best smiley incoherent friends who are just the same evil, just in a different way. And I actually don't. I actually think Trump, in comparison to the presidents either side of him, and I include Obama, who closed more access to abortion than any other president, maybe not more than Biden, ironically, but more than, and I say ironically because so many leftist women in America voted for Biden because they wanted to save reproductive rights.
You know what those people are doing? They're pushing puberty blockers on kids. I just saw a video from Planned Parenthood selling puberty blockers to kids.
I'm talking about women on our side who claim that they voted for Trump. They voted against Trump because Trump was going to destroy abortion rights. And actually, it happened under Biden. And it happened because the left had never really secured them properly. And when I say left, I mean the American left, not the actual left.
Mm-hmm.
And Obama, through industrialized abortion access with Planned Parenthood, he shut many. Mary Lou Singleton talks about this better than I can. And I trust her judgment when it comes to American reproductive rights. And she sort of said they took it away from women a really long time ago, which made it just a totally different animal.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, again, and yeah, I've learned so much from Mary Lou about this issue, and I think she said this to me, but I think she's right. I just think the Democrats are using the abortion issue for votes, and I think they like that it continues to be a debate and a struggle. I don't think they want it to be resolved. I don't think that they actually want women to just be able to choose to have abortions when they want to. I think that this serves them and they want to keep it that way. I don't think this is for them about defending women's rights. Of course, it's not about defending women's rights. Otherwise, they wouldn't be actively destroying women's rights.
And the best logical argument, I think, because it doesn't have to be emotional. I think clearly it is quite an emotional argument that women have the right to decide what happens to their body. But the best logical argument, rational argument for access to abortion is whether it's legal or illegal, it doesn't change the rate of abortion. It just changes the rate of death to women. Now, that is a really good argument for keeping it safe and legal. I don't know why that isn't the prevailing argument. I mean, I think women should just be able to do it anyway. But I also think that fundamentally, if you change the access to maternity services, if you change the fact that women get so bloody poor in America, if you change some of those things, I think you'd reduce the need for abortion because fewer women would be getting pregnant in the first place. I'm sure in poorer areas, the rate of termination is much greater. And we know that it's so much more than reproductive rights and so much not more than reproductive rights, if you know what I mean. Fundamentally, it's about a woman and a body, but holistically, it's about so much more than that.
Yeah. I mean, it is all about money and power and politics. And I think anyone who thinks differently is naive. Can you just remind us again where people can find the link to donate for the donation and your American tour? I just want to point out to everybody, in case they didn't notice, that like the thumbnail that I used for this YouTube video, I took Eddie Murphy's crown from Coming to America and put it on Posie's head. So I wanted to just make the cultural appropriation really obvious. I gave you a black man's crown.
Oh my God, I've been listening to there's a movie called The Black King, which for a start it annoys me that it's not called a queen because that instantly demeans the position of a queen to lesser than a king because she has to be called the Black King. But also these amazing women that fought again. So they are real people and they fought against certain I don't know, they were a female force, a matriarchal force or whatever. But they also dealt in slaves. So they're not quite the saviors that they're supposed to be. Anyway, but it's standingforwomen.com/documentary. The yellow box, the yellow donate is the easiest for Americans to donate. Obviously, when I come back from America, I'll be starting the campaign to become an MP, competing against Eddie Izzard. So that's the other thing I'm going to do this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's exciting.
Well, he's trying to be an MP in Sheffield, and I don't know. I don't think I'll win at all, but I think I can force them into the conversation because I'll be a candidate.
That's awesome. I'm excited. JB in the comments says the woman king, not the black king.
Oh, the woman king. Yeah, that's why it's
Is weird. This a series, did you say?
No, I think it's film.
It's a movie? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, the woman king. That just annoys me. I'm so sorry, JB. It just annoys me that it has to be. Why is it the woman king? Why can't it just be the queen? Anyway.
I posted the link to the Standing for Women /documentary. I posted that in the live chat. I'll put it in the notes. I want to ask you, I don't know if you have to run off yet. I have to go soon because I have to pee. But I wonder if you think that what's going on with mermaids signals an end to all this.
Oh, well, I certainly think there'll be a distancing. I mean, do you really want to be a celebrity? Although I don't know, because actually it's gone so weird that it might not even, it should be the end of some people's careers for associating, like it would have been years ago. It might have been the end of your career for associating with that. I mean, look, let's take Amber Heard. So anybody that may be stuck up for Amber Heard is probably going to be a lot less easy to employ. Right, they might be a lot less employable. Whatever we think, whether we think that she is a terrible human and he's just worse, whether we think she's a complete victim, whatever we think, just being associated with that woman, I would imagine, considering the distancing everybody did straight away, that's one thing. Is it going to be as career ending to be associated with a man who's, as at the very least, interested in paedophilia, related, like connected to a charity? Will we see statements from the likes of Emma Watson, Little Mix, and all of these other people? Will we see a distancing statement?
I don't know, man. I don't think, like, I just don't feel like any of these people are ever going to be accountable, and it makes me really mad. I mean, we've seen it with, like, all the people who supported all the lockdowns and the vaccine mandates and all that horrid behavior, and they haven't backtracked, even though new information has come out that, you know, all that caused more harm than good. I just think all these people who supported, you know, I saw somebody posting the other day, like, oh, like there was more overdeaths during the lockdown because of the lockdown. I was like, you screamed at me over the internet for going to Mexico and for criticizing all these mandates. Like you pushed masks, you pushed lockdowns, and you punished and hated people who didn't go along. And now you're looking back and being like, oh, maybe this wasn't so, but she's not saying, oh, maybe it wasn't so good. She's like, you know, man. They just glom on to what the convenient politics are of the moment, and they refuse to admit that they were part of it in the first place. Like all these people who called us TERFs and transphobic and bigots and wanted us arrested and banned from the internet and kicked us out of their friend groups or political circles or fired women from their jobs, who said, you know, support trans kids, like love is love. I don't think they're going to backtrack or be accountable for what they did or what they supported or what they participated in. I think they're just going to go along with whatever the thing is to go along with.
Well, I've got a record, I think in about March or April of when was the first lockdown? 2020?
Yeah.
I've got a conversation with Brendan O'Neill and I where we both say that we think the consequences of the lockdown will be greater than the actual pandemic, whatever it could have caused. The consequences will be everlasting. I'm so glad I've got that on record. I'm so glad because it's all coming out now, isn't it? Everyone's admitting they lied, and we know, there's places that are saying we're going to go cashless within 5 years. I think Steve Bannon, oh my God, I mentioned that name. He's been talking about the Great Reset for a really long time. And it seems, and he's not the only one. But there was a really good interview with him and Tim Pool where he talked about this, and he talked about sort of information wars and so on. I think I'm sure there's loads of reasons why I'm supposed to really hate him, but this particular thing, he was amazing. So I mean, is trans. So Russell Brand's someone I've been following because
Yeah,
he's really come out of his leftist kind of stronghold and against globalism and so on.
Yeah, he's
And
been great.
Well, he said something. He said, "Oh, and we're supposed to be distracted by these divisions, gender identity, race, blah blah blah." And I just thought, hang on. Whilst it may be a distraction, there are genuinely victims when it comes. I'm sure they're genuinely victims of race, but there's genuinely victims of people from this push of gender identity. So you can dismiss it out of hand if you want to, as like a distraction. But actually, women are losing their spaces, and kids' bodies are getting messed up. So, it's interesting he hasn't really touched upon this, and I don't quite know why when he talks about big pharma and opioids and vaccines and that stuff, that he doesn't quite get this. Or maybe he does. He's just not brave enough.
I mean, he's pushed back against so many things, and they've been censored on YouTube too, actually. So you'd think that I would think he would be brave enough. But maybe he doesn't quite get it yet. Who knows? Where is he? Is he in London?
I don't know. I thought he was in the States, but apparently he's in London.
Oh.
Lola Moth says Brandon has an iffy past and won't want the light shone on it if he gets into this debate. Don't know what you mean, Lola. Don't know what you mean.
I mean, he's taken quite a few risks, so I don't know that he's too worried about that. But who knows? Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for joining me on YouTube this evening, my afternoon. Thank you everyone for coming. Thanks for your super chats. Please like and subscribe and share, and go to standingforwomen.com/documentary to donate to Posie's sure to be amazing documentary. I can't wait to see you in America surrounded by bodyguards.
Be great.
Okay, bye everyone.